that's the thing, that's one of the sort of things about you. So I know you spoke about this a million times, but you're a comedian, you're a banker turned stand-up comedian. And this was what was so sort of interesting and brave in a way. I'm sure people say brave, that when you were sort of in your mid to late 40s, you started when some banker type people are sort of starting to wonder, think about their retirement. I mean, you had a completely new career as a stand-up.
Yeah, I did behind that. Banking to comedy. I went from banking to staying at home with my children, and then to comedy. And I think there's nothing more sobering than staying with 3 young kids at home that you think, oh my God, there's got to be something else going on in my life. And so people say, well, how did you decide? I would have done many weird things. It's just that stand-up happened to roll along and I jumped on that, That's how I think of it. Obviously, that's not how anything works. There's not many people would have gone on stage just like that. I did. I mean, there was some alcohol involved, let us be very honest. But yeah, so I did that. And it was never a plan to have a profession. It was a decision on the day to do something that I thought was wild, but also very attractive, because I've always loved making people laugh, always, without fail. As a child, I did it, and I had the worst stammer. So these jokes would take 25 minutes. They were uncomfortable. I couldn't get words out of my mouth. Adults would be cringing, but I still would hope for a laugh at the end of it.
Now, so your parents, they must have been pretty happy when you went to Oxford and went into banking. Is that right? But being at the same time materialistically sort of ambitious for you while being spiritual.
Yeah, those things are not separate in Hinduism. So there's no, it's both. I mean, you've got to, just because you're trying to eat well doesn't mean you don't remember God.
So, I thought you couldn't serve money and mammon. I suppose that's Christian, isn't it?
That is very Abrahamic.
Yeah.
Abrahamic religions, they do have this, and it's something which I have always known, but it's just not in the DNA of Vedanta, which is basically the heart of Hindu philosophy. Because remember, the Hindu religion is a very recent, and it has lots of mutations across the country and across the subcontinent. But Vedanta, Hindu, the core of Hindu philosophy, which is in the Bhagavad Gita, for example, or in our Puranas or Upanishads, that's consistent.
Yeah.
Most Indians are, depending on how ritualistic you are, you're either veering towards religion or you're veering towards the spiritual outlook, but you will meet. You will always meet.
Yeah. And the Kumbh Mela, I mean, the yogis make quite a lot of money, don't they? I mean, people throw money at them, but they're always asking for money.
Of course. And I think the idea that money and sin, first of all, there's no word for sin in Hinduism. There's no sin. There's no word.
There's no word for sin.
No.
Why? Because everything's sort of predestined from the beginning.
No, it's because acts that you do have merit or demerit according to your context. So a mother who kills someone because they're about to kill her child has not committed a sin. You see, so that's a very simplistic way. And if my father was to ever hear this, he would give me a phone call and say, how could you have simplified it and made it sound so wrong? But I think that's that in Hinduism, the notion of dharma, which is the thing that your right acts based on your time, your location, your role in life, that's the biggest. That's what gives you your goal. And goal is where it starts. You need a goal. You need gratitude, which is bhakti, devotion, and then you need gyan, which is knowledge. So your goals change throughout your life. So how can you have one set of good and bad? That just doesn't matter.
So when you were a banker, you didn't suffer banking with this feeling that some, I suppose, Europeans would have. It's like, I'm working too hard. I'm not allowing other parts of my life to flourish, and this sort of thing.
Well, I mean, I was young. It was so all consuming that I did used to think, God, I'm tired, but I don't know how many bankers but they get a lot of other stuff in.
Yeah.
And this and that, and going out in the evening and with clients. But I also think that's a personal disposition. If you're a person who can fit a lot of things in, then you make the time. There was no time. I mean, I didn't read a book except I had to go on a holiday to read a book, but then I would go on holiday and get sick because that's when your body could finally relax. So I don't think I read a book for years, which is not like me. I mean, I'm always reading. No, but I didn't have that in banking. For me, banking was really about securing myself. It was financial independence, and it was not having to return home before I was ready to return home. Because I think women being financially independent is underrated. And if you're from my kind of culture and background where your marriage is so defining of your identity, then there is a real drive to secure your independence through being financially independent. That's a step one. And banking was for me that thing. I mean, I could have become a professor. I just needed a job that gave me a visa. So I could continue to be financially independent. Because if I had gone home, I would have got married. It would have been the right thing to do, and my parents would have suggested people, and I would have been fine. I would have got married, I'd have had a job, but I was having a lot of fun on my own. And I'm sure there was some boy story in there. It's always some boy story, keeping me interested in staying.
When we chatted before, you said this thing which I've been thinking about, because it's such a sort of fascinating idea that I think I'm right to say your dad said something along the lines of, at this period in your life when you're doing the banking 10 or 15 years, throw yourself into it. And in a way, the work becomes your yoga.
Yeah, 100%. And that counts for anything, with that, when you have that attitude, is that the work that you do, whatever it is, if you do it with this idea that this is what I meant to do, this is what I should be doing, and you do it well, and you don't harm anyone in the doing it. But if your job is to be a hangman, you are harming people, but that's your job. Then if you do it well, that is yoga. To be so immersed in your work that all you can think is, I must do this well, that is a form of yoga. The Tibetan Buddhists also talk about it. What it is a focus. It's a focus. It's a mindfulness, which is that word is bandied around now. One of my kids said to me the other day, I'm going to be very mindful when I have my tea today. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's a focus. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mindfulness has become, we've been talking about this in the magazine, it's taken a spiritual practice and taken the spirituality out of it and turned it into some sort of, money-making technique or way of sort of de-stressing when you're in a boring job.
Yeah, I mean, making money is a form of meditative practice, if that's what you do. Everything is everything, being alive, breathing. And that's why when they say, whenever you get these apps, Calm and this and that, what do they say? Close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out. Because the breath is yoga. Being alive is yoga. You gotta breathe in and breathe out, otherwise you're not gonna be here.